everyone, it's Kyle with Sentinel Peak Design Studio. We're back for another little design session. So found this guy. He is pretty cute. I love these types of little fidgets. I don't know what they're called, but they're a lot of fun to play with. Um, this guy's a smaller one. Usually they're pretty big and make cool designs and stars or whatever shape you want. Different kinds of shapes. This one's just a smaller, taller one, being a jack-o'-lantern, a pumpkin. Was taking a look at this and decided to give it a try on making my own when I was doing some coloring. So it was originally just orange, and I went to do the coloring on it, and for some reason when I colored the eyes, I did a fill, and it filled the whole face in. So it's like connected behind, but it also filled the lines in. So I couldn't figure out how to get it to not do it. I tried doing it by object, it didn't work. So decided to make my own. Pretty simple shape. Took some measurements. So let me show you what I wrote down and drew and show you how we can make this thing. First of all, I am no artist, obviously. So just some basic measurements from here. It's 28 millimeters tall. Total width was 51 millimeters. So we're going to be working on just a half, and I'll show you on the next page how we're going to build this thing out. But we're just going to need radii. I don't know what you call them. So middle is 25.5, bottom and top are 23. Each of the 8 rings, it's got 8 inner rings. Let's look at it from the bottom. So there's a center post, which is thicker. It's also what the stem is connected to. And then there's 8 inner rings and then an outer ring. I'm making a differentiation because it is thicker. So the 8 inner rings are 1 millimeter for 8 millimeters total. 1 outer ring, 2 millimeters, 2 millimeters total, and 1 center ring. The diameter on that is 8 millimeters. Since we are just going to be working with the radius, it is 4 millimeters. So total, as I'm trying to dimension this, I need to figure out what my empty space and what my spacing is between each ring as well. So the way I figured that was my 23 that I measured for the bottom radius, subtract out all my solids that I know, which is 14. 23 minus 14 is 9. That's also how many empty rings there are. So my gaps are 1 millimeter gaps. So let's take a look at the next page, and I'll show you how I'm going to be making this. One way you might think is, if you're familiar with Fusion, this is where I'll be making this, but you can extrude. So start out with a bunch of rings, extrude it up, but you're going to have a problem because you can taper the extrusion, but it's going to be very difficult to get all the different rings extruded. You're likely going to have to actually do an offset plane and do lofts, and then do another offset plane and do lofts back in. So what we're going to do is a revolve. That's going to take, what this picture is basically a cross section cut this way. So then you're looking at the front of it. This is the center post. This is the outermost ring. And then it's cut again this way. What we're going to do is build these shapes and then revolve it around the center, and it'll build rings. So we're going to start our sketch in Fusion from the front and basically do it as a cross section if we're looking at it that way, and then revolve it all the way back around and make it a big ring. Second to last thing is our stem. You'll notice it's a little bit smaller than the center post, so it's a little offset in and then it's also got a little bit of a curve. So I'll show you how to get an extrusion with a little bit of a curve like that. And then we need to do the face, which will be an emboss. I don't know how they did it, but it didn't work right because I couldn't get it painted right. And that's not just bleeding. It was actually part of the printing. Like, I, I don't know what happened. It's weird, but it didn't show up in the slicer as being black. So who knows? Anyways, I will see you over in Fusion. Over into Fusion. I have it opened up, and I also brought our diagram in. That's over in the right-hand corner. I'll have that there for reference. I'll turn it off a little bit later when we're done with the initial drawing part, but this is just so we can get our drawing going. First thing we want to do is create a sketch, and this is going to be on a front view. So normally I start on the bottom, but we're going to be looking at this as kind of a cross section. All right, start off with some lines. This first line, we don't need to be a solid line. This is going to be what we revolve around when we do our final revolve after we draw all our shapes. So let's use this as a center line. That'll also help us down the road when we add the stripes on the side. We're going to do a pattern around the outside of the pumpkin to add some stripes. So this will help with that as well. So our center line, this was 28 millimeters. That's the height of our pumpkin. Now we do want to switch to some solid lines because this is going to be starting with our body. Going to be starting with that inner kind of plug, and that was 4 millimeters off the top, 4 millimeters off the bottom. Now I want to do just a quick construction line, find my center. We know we were 6.5 millimeters. There we go. 6.5 millimeters. Each section is going to jump out 2.5 millimeters. So that's just construction line for reference. Now let's do our solid line. So let's switch over here or hit X to toggle it. Go there. Because we hit a point, it stopped my line. So restart it and go there. Now, even though this wasn't a solid line, the center line still acts as a line to complete our body. If it was just a construction line, this would not be solid. We would not be able to do our revolve around it. At least I'm like 99% sure of that. Okay, let's start. Let's do our outermost line. And if you look down at our diagram, the lower two numbers, the 23 millimeters, that was to the outside of the bottom of the pumpkin. So that's the radius from here to the outside. It's also the same at the top, but let's do this as a construction line in the center, 28 millimeters. Go ahead and place that. Same at the top. Whoa, that did not. Stay straight. Okay. And then from the center was 25.5. So let's get 5.5. Why do these? What did 28? Not 23. Try that again. 23 millimeters right angle. And another one up here on the top. Go right there until it stops us. Put our check mark. Okay, let's do our outer line. Remember, this outermost, if you look down at the right, the outermost ring is 2 millimeters thick. Let's change that to regular line. or it was outermost was 2 millimeters thick. It was 2.5 millimeters offset. So we need to do that, and then we need to make another line right there, 2 millimeters. That should snap at our same degree. It's going to be much easier. Copy this, paste, grab this, move it over 2 millimeters. Okay, let's just draw our line across. Now we've got a solid body. So that is our outermost. We have our innermost core and then the outermost 2 millimeter. Now in the middle of here, we've got 8 1 millimeter rings. And the first one's going to start offset 1 millimeter. I'm just going to do this again. Let's just take these two, copy, paste. And this is only going to go over 1 millimeter now. So all of our 8 from here, we got 1 millimeter spacing, 1 millimeter lines. But we're only going to do our first one, and then we're just going to pattern the rest all the way across. So this first one's 1 millimeter. Copy, paste. 1 millimeter. So now this gives us our thickness for our first ring in. Now we're just going to copy this one 7 more times, do a pattern all the way across here and fill it in. So let's escape from that. If I double click this, it selects the whole ring. And then I can go rectangular pattern because we're just going across. And I need a total of 8 of these. No, not that way. And this one, 8. And then we just drag all the way across. So now I've got my outer 2 millimeter, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inner, and then my core. Take that construction line. I don't need these construction lines anymore. I do need the center line because now we're going to do our revolves. So start with our core. And this is pretty simple. Let's finish our sketch. Just click in that. And if you don't have it right here on your shortcuts, in here and revolve. Now see what that did? It took that profile, that shape we drew, and it took it in a ring all the way around the center axis that we set. That center line revolved at 360 degrees. If we wanted to do something else, we could adjust this however we want, but we want 360. Now, we can't do them all at the same time. We're going to have to do them individually. So I'll speed through this. But one important thing, this first one is our first official body. So it is a new body. Future ones, we're going to do join. So we only end up with one body. So each of my next revolves, I'm going to go through it in fast time. But each of the following ones is going to have, it's going to be a join. Okay, we now have our full fidget. This will work just as it is. You can print this out. It is one body. Export this, save it as a mesh, and you are done. If you want to make it a pumpkin, we can make it a pumpkin. That's what we're here to do. So first thing, and from here, there's actually quite a few ideas to think of how it opens. You can make it a Santa hat and make the outside red with the Santa face on it or something. Or just do even the colors, make it white around the top, and who knows? You can do other stuff with this. But let's go ahead and extrude out our little stem. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. All right, so all we're gonna do, and this is fairly simple, we're gonna create a sketch on here. We want it a little bit smaller. We don't want it to come out to the whole ring. You can if you want. I'm going to do 5 millimeters. The whole diameter is 8. Let's do 6. Okay. While we're in the sketch, we're going to use the revolve tool again, but we're not going to do 360 degrees this time. We're going to revolve this up and out. So think of it like this. It's going to come up and out and curve. So we're going to do an extrusion, a revolve extrusion, and we want to curve around an axis that's out here. Just like these outer rings revolved around this axis and they made a curve, we're going to do the same thing, but kind of set it far so it makes a big axis. It doesn't curve quickly, and you'll see what I mean. So we're just going to draw a construction line and put it out here a little bit. Now, let's finish that sketch just like that. Revolve it. Cancel that, sorry. Let's do revolve first. Axis, we're not going to use that axis. We're going to use this. And our profile is this. Now, if you look, it is showing as a cut because it's set to 360 degrees. And earlier when I mentioned you can adjust it by grabbing the handle, because it goes through solid bodies, it thinks it wants us to cut that. If you notice over there, as soon as we take it out, it loses the cut. And now look, as we bring it back, we have a little stem. And it used this curve. So if you want it to be even a gentler curve, you bring this out further. You want it to be a sharper curve, you bring that line in a little bit closer. And it takes that extrusion and revolves it around. Pretty cool little trick. We want to join that. And that's done. Let's hide some sketches that we don't need anymore. Okay. Let's put some rings on it. So we need to make a cut into this. What we're going to use is an emboss, and just to make a thin stripe into the side of this, and then we're going to do the pattern around. Now, the problem we've got is when we go to do an emboss, because these are on different planes, they're at different angles here, we're going to be drawing on a plane in front of this and emboss the shape onto these bodies. But it can't go around a curve. So we're going to have to do kind of a double emboss. And you will see what I mean in just a moment. So let's go ahead. Oh, one quick thing before I forget. Highlight that, hit F for fillet, and hit a 1. That rounds that curve a little bit. Okay, now let's do our sketch in the front. To create a sketch in the front, if I try to make a sketch right now, I can't draw directly on this body because it's not flat. I can choose one of those planes, but then it makes the emboss difficult out here. So I'm going to do what's called an offset plane. And I'm going to use this as my directional, my plane reference, but I'm going to actually bring it out in front of this. And now this gives me a new plane to work on to draw. So it's off to the side right now. All you need to do after you hit OK is highlight it and grab a corner. Doesn't really matter what this looks like. We're going to draw a sketch on it. But you can adjust that plane to kind of see if it's where you need it. Now we draw a face. So I'm just going to be quick, not going to do anything fancy. We're going to emboss this on it afterwards. So just do a triangle. Just going to see, we do have a center line from our sketch. Just mirror that on that center. Another little triangle for the nose. What? That is too high with our center point down there. So let's do those down there. And then let's do a center line so we get it even from the middle. And this is going to be the top of our mouth. Make sure we stay flat. I made him kind of narrow-eyed, I think, but it's all good. You can do whatever you want for the face. I'm just doing it quick. 3-point arc for the bottom. With this, you select a first point, last point, and then where you want the curve to be. You want to select on the middle somewhere. Put a mouth like that. And want to move these down a little more so it takes up more of the bottom. Okay, now we can draw in a couple teeth. Make one sharp. And do that one weird. Make him goofy. Okay, let's emboss it. So notice now our drawing is in front, and we're going to emboss this onto our shape. We can either do this. So let's go ahead and hit our emboss tool. Finish our sketch, sorry. We can hide our first sketch. We don't need that. So we've got we're back under our solid menu. Go to emboss. Under sketch profiles, we can only do half of this at a time because of that curve I mentioned. So we're going to emboss the top half first. Our face, see, I've got to select a face. So if I selected this, I can only select one face anyways. If I selected down here, it doesn't match up, so it wouldn't emboss correctly. It doesn't line up. It basically imprints it directly behind where it's at. We've got it set to a deboss. Emboss means it's going to come out of the face and it'll stick out whatever we set. Right now it's set to 0.5. A deboss is what we want, like a jack-o'-lantern, and that cuts it in. We want to go 0.5 millimeter. You can do whatever depth you want. These are greater than 45, so you won't need any supports or anything on the top half at least. If you go too deep on the bottom, then you got to worry about supports because it's already an overhang. And then you cut in too deep, and then you're really hanging over. So I'm just doing 0.5 millimeter. Go ahead and hit OK. Now we have our holes, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the bottom. Just like that. I cut the teeth out, so it's not selecting those. It's just going to leave those as the regular color. It's fine. Select our face. This time it's the bottom, 0.5 millimeter cut, deboss, and go. Now we can turn off that sketch. And we got a jack-o'-lantern. This should have done it over here to look better with it on the side, but once you print this thing, he's kind of derpy, but it's all good. His teeth match. Once you print this thing spins freely in the middle anyway, so it doesn't matter which way it's pointing. All right, let's add some stripes on here. Some ridges, I guess we call them on a pumpkin. Do another construction plane on this side. This, bring it up. Want it pretty close to it. Looks pretty good. Our sketch. Now we're just going to do the same thing. We want to do this right on this center now. Create our 2-point rectangle. Start plenty below. And our width. So tabs, we get our width is 0.5. I know it said it, but now it's locked in. You see the lock on there. And go a little above. Okay. Separate it. Now we've got our two separate areas. Finish sketch. Select our profile, emboss, deboss, select our face. And now here's where we need to move it a little bit. So see right there, it doesn't quite meet the center. I have my line drawn right at the center, but it doesn't quite come down to meet it. So I'm just going to drag that down a little bit, and it's going to stop right there at the center. When I do the other one from the bottom, it's going to come up and meet it, and we will have a good shape. Additionally, it should now be by straight on. We should be straight up and down. Sorry, my chair must have been crooked or something. I was looking at it crooked. All right, do another one for the bottom. Oh, go back in there, gotta move it up. Now, if I forget to, see, we got a little piece that's going to be left there in the middle. It's not going to be a full connection. Pick that up. Sure that's still fit in the bottom. I'm getting both sides now. Yes. All right. Now we've got our cut. We've got the two embosses, debosses, to make our pattern. So up here, we're going to go into pattern. We don't want to do the one up here that's rectangular. Actually, you can click it, just change it in here on the menu to circular pattern. Make sure you've got features selected. We're going to be selecting, you can select bodies or other things, but we want to select features so we can select the two features we created, which were the two embosses. Our axis, we want to turn that first sketch on where we've made our center line. Access the center line. Let's choose our two objects. And distribution. We're going to do this partial. So I don't want to go onto the face. And this is way too many. All right, I'll have to come back the other direction as well, but I don't need this many. What I should have done is done it directly on the back, and then I could have done symmetric and gone both directions all the way around and pinched it into the face. Now I'll just do another pattern. That's fine. Circular pattern. Get our two objects again. Center axis is this. And full partial. There we go. Okay. I got there eventually. I think that looks pretty even. It's a little off on that side, but what I should have done, and if you guys want to do this, make your sketch, make your offset plane on this side and draw it right in the middle, and then do a symmetrical distribution. And that makes it go both in both directions from your center point. But this works for my purpose. And we're done. We have a jack-o'-lantern. Now all we do is save it. I haven't saved it for a while. And then export it to mesh. And then I will see you over in and there he is. Keep a smile and all. So there's ours. There's the original. It's got a different face, but just about the same.